And welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us on this Monday. It is 1:06.
Is it Monday?
It's a Monday.
Oh, it was Friday.
Holy man, you just coming off the bender, or you just lose a whole week?
I just lost the whole week.
Holy moly, Dean! It's 66 degrees out there, a little cloudy, and well, I think it's going to stay cloudy for basically the rest of the day. And we got many more chances for rain. We're going to have to call rain like a swear word now or something. I think people are getting sick of this.
I think so, especially when it comes on holiday weekends.
Ah, well, that's a given.
Last year was nice on Memorial Day.
Yeah, like last year was an anomaly.
Yeah. Bridgette, how was your weekend?
Dandy.
Yard
it
work,
rained some.
Garden work, anything like that?
Justin's ahead of me on the garden being in, but I do have my plants on. Oh, you're not? I thought you had a few things planted.
I was going to plant yesterday.
I have things on hand, so I'm ready to plant when the time should arise, whenever that break in potential rain is going to happen, which sounds like
today,
sometime in June.
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah, what? Maybe Wednesday, Thursday. We don't get hit with a shower, but I think there's still a shot that we do, unfortunately.
The Wednesday, Thursday might be all right, but then another storm after that.
There are folks in Northeast South Dakota, like our friend Amanda Nigg, who's by Sisseton. She and her husband Louie farm down there. They haven't turned a wheel. There's folks that really just don't have any.
Here,
they don't have any crop in.
Maybe they need to put some tracks on their tractor.
Even tracks at this point aren't going to help when you would just have mud. You can't plant in mud.
Them tracks will get you through.
You have greater faith in them than many. That's going to be a little tough.
The guy who's never operated a tractor.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Virtual tractors works just fine in the rain.
Well,
actually,
turn the mud up on those virtual ones.
Right.
I was going to say, actually, I did get a tractor stuck a couple times in the game. That was fun.
That's where our folks from Oaks Truck and Equipment would have to come and help. They are the guys that have to pull everything out. And if you recall, we had them on air last summer, and they have great stories. I bet they do again this year, too.
And we've got more rain in the forecast. Not today. Today will be quiet. A lot of clouds around. We've seen a few breaks from time to time, but mostly cloudy. Currently, we're in the mid to upper 60s, mid 60s. We'll have a high today close to 70 with northwest winds about 5 to 10. Tonight, clouds sticking up down to 50, and a big storm system is going to be passing to our south on Tuesday. That's going to ramp the winds in out of the northeast, 15 to 25. And heavy rain is a good likelihood from Lakes Country south into the cities. Severe weather for the Central Plains. Now, our models are kind of battling on how much rain we're going to see here in the FM area. The further north and west you go from Fargo, the lesser rains you'll get. So, Bridgette, that's good news for you.
It is.
But from Fargo southward and southeastward could have the potential of heavy rains. Couple of the models basically cutting the rain off at Fargo, giving us about 1/10 of an inch. And
that's nice. Let's do that. I want to play softball.
I would like that. Now, there's other. You don't play on Tuesdays?
I play on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Oh, yeah, you ain't playing.
But my main team is Wednesday.
You'll play tomorrow up in Forks?
Yes.
You'll be fine. Rain will be south of you mostly. But there's some of the models that are giving Fargo area, and again, we're right on the cutoff, anywhere between 1/10 of an inch and 1.5 inches. So have fun forecasting that, right?
What would that be in snow terms, Dean?
That'd be between 1 and 12 inches.
That's like you might get a dusting to a whole
foot
crap load. That just doesn't
exactly.
Even stop.
Exactly. So there's going to be a sharp cutoff in the precip tomorrow. I do think we'll probably be somewhere in between there, 1/2 inch or so. But as you go towards Lakes Country, those areas and points southward are going to get hit with 1 to 2 inches of rain. Not great news for those areas. But then that shuts off Wednesday and Thursday for the most part. An isolated pop-up shower can't be ruled out with highs in the 60s. And then another system comes our way Thursday night into Friday morning, giving us more rain and storms. And then we see a break on Saturday. Saturday looks pretty nice for Memorial Day weekend. 70s, partly cloudy. And then Sunday into Monday, another storm system coming our way with more rain. I think the first part of Sunday might be dry, but Saturday looks to be the pick day of the upcoming holiday weekend. So if you're going to go out into the lakes, out and boating, Saturday looks to be
going
pretty good.
boating.
Yeah.
Bridgette, your thoughts. You're giving me faces.
I'm just thinking to myself, I'm going to get a set of water wings out and make sure they're by the door. So every time I go out, in case I should wash away, I'd be safe.
Well, that or a boat.
You know it's bad if you have to drive down the road and you're wearing a life vest just in case you have to
Hit a
pull over the side
pothole.
of the road. It could get rough.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of them,
Yeah, it's a
potholes
little
are
rough
getting
around
nasty
here.
out there again.
So yeah, pretty
Get a little
wet. Now,
bigger.
I do see a break after that or towards the end of the first week in June. I do believe we're going to warm up substantially, and we're really going to start to shut the rain off.
Right on.
So
That's what we like to
that.
hear.
Now, don't quote me on that, but that's the way it appears right now.
No, that's a little bit of a fear factor because remember when that happens,
You don't
now
want-
we run the risk of
Mhm.
how fast are we going to heat up? Is this just going to cause like a crusting of the soil? So if you have some late planted soybeans, because there's a lot of soybeans not in the ground yet, it's wet, you put them in, it's slightly muddy, you have this heavy soil, and then it's almost like it bakes a little crust over the top of the soil surface. So the little bean heads can't push their way out. You literally are going to have to go back out there with like a rotary hoe and throw some dirt to open up that crust to get them to come out. So this could be tough on the crop. The warm up would be nice. I think the corn would like that a lot. We're just going to have to see how everything else goes. Notice
Right.
it's not exactly what I want, gentlemen.
It never
We need to
is.
work on that.
It never is.
No,
Oh man.
you can't win.
You're-
If farmers,
Nope.
farmers and women, it's just hard to please them all the time. It is what it is, right, Bridgette?
I'm kind of both.
And you're both.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm like the incredibly high maintenance agriculturalist over here. As you want.
Oh man. Well, we've got a couple minutes here. You want to hit on an ag topic here, Bridgette?
No.
No.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm
Cool.
kidding.
All right. Perfect. So, with that being said,
All right. So this weekend will be the Indianapolis 500. For those of you who have never been to the raceway, it's worth your time. And one thing that they talk about is the history of milk being a part of the Indy 500. It has been happening in victory circles since 1936 when Lewis Mayer asked for a glass of buttermilk after his victory. I mean, who wouldn't in 1936? So nonetheless, that has evolved to that there is a bottle of milk that is handed to a winning driver, crew chief, and team owner upon their win. And this year it is a dairy family from Kendallville, Indiana, fourth generation. Abby Hare, she is the 2004 rookie milkwoman, and she and her husband, Steve, and their daughters will be presenting that milk to the winning team. Little fun fact
Yeah,
for
no,
you that's going to
I
be
had-
going on.
No idea, but I guess I've never really been an indie person.
oh, so you've never seen them celebrate with milk at the end?
No, I haven't.
Really?
No,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
never really been an
Absolutely.
indie or
I was
NASCAR.
wondering where that came from. So look at that. See, you're never
That
too
was
old
it.
to learn something.
No,
I spent some time in my life prior to Dale Earnhardt's death. I was a big NASCAR fan, and in fact have been to the Brickyard in August when took some customers down and was in Indianapolis for a week. That's a time frame that I may not remember, but my liver will never forget. There's a lot going on in
right
those few
on.
days. A lot going on.
My buddy used to work the pit in NASCAR. He used to work the pit area, and some of the stories he has to tell. Yeah, it's he said it was a fun time in his life. He was in his 20s at the time, and it was
nothing
I
you can
bet.
share.
nothing I can share on the air.
Wow.
No.
I hope your buddy and I have never met, Dean.
I-
So now, additionally,
Oh my!
The activists are very much targeting pork producers. Pork production took a blow with the passing of Prop 12 in California as far as legislation is concerned. And again, that went all the way back into the I states like Indiana, Iowa, where they're raising a tremendous amount of the hogs that were then being processed and sold into California. What happened is it created changes that were happening in other states for how the hogs are housed. Well, the concern now is that the animal activists feel like they had a win. And so they are moving in to do a lot more legislation in areas that seem unusual. So, for instance, they're proposing citywide legislation in Berkeley, California to prevent farm processing and farming within that community. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but if it were to be elevated to the county level, Sonoma County, California is a big agricultural market. And so, right now, folks like the Livestock Animal Alliance is an agricultural alliance. They are working to make sure that we understand what's going into proposed legislation at state, county, and city levels so that the animal activists don't pull a fast one, so to speak, on unsuspecting voters. So keep an eye out for that, especially in this very heated election year. Lots going on there.
Right. Well, we've got a guest coming up here, Bridgette, and
I hope so.
I believe she's one of our returning guests as well.
She is. This is Allison Thompson. She is with the Money Farm. When I say I hope so, it's because you guys can usually see all the monitors, and hopefully Allison has already joined us.
She is here.
And great. We're going to talk about quite a few things. She's had some recent articles about coffee and cocoa. How do those relate to what we're doing up here? And then also some things that are going on in the wheat market that I think Allison can help us discuss. So we will do that with her when we return after the American Ag Network. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. So glad that you're joining us, and also that we have had a chance to keep up with what's happening out in our field for Here We Grow, where we're custom farming 20 acres of corn. The fun part for us is that we get to use quality seeds from a company like Dairyland Seed. Dairyland is very active in their communities. They love being a part of these types of situations. They also have a full lineup of top quality seed that will help them outperform the competition. And to Ellingson Drainage. Ellingson has been a longtime partner for us, and they do a fabulous job on our field, making sure that our field is ready to go with drainage, and we're not holding any water back, especially on these rainy days that we're currently having. Allison Thompson from the Money Farm is joining us. Allison, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
We're doing pretty well.
We are fabulous. Thank you. Okay, so you've written a couple of articles that I kept an eye on, and I wanted to ask, maybe kind of could you summarize some of this, where you talked about soft commodities like coffee and cocoa have been strong. How could that have or be a parallel influence on what's going on for the grain market? And when you say grains, are we talking small grains, corn? I mean, can you give us kind of the background of what your discussion was?
Yeah, so I basically touched on coffee and cocoa in the article you're referencing. I wrote it for Egg Week a few weeks ago. Obviously, the situation changes very quickly in commodities, as you know, with grains especially. And soft commodities aren't any different. And actually, they've gotten a lot of headlines lately because we were making record high prices over the last couple of months since the start of the year. And they were actually trading quite opposite of what grains were doing for the first 4 months of the year. That's when we saw really a good rally on some of these and making new highs that we haven't seen in a very long time, orange juice included. And the funds actually, which are outside investors, were actually buying into a lot of these soft commodities. And I don't know if you guys have touched on it at all, but the funds have been record short on the grain side, and they're just starting to lighten up on that position. So we might be seeing a little bit of flow coming out of some of these other soft commodities and probably adding to some spark in a rally that we're seeing in the grain side. But I like touching on the soft commodities too, because they're definitely something that we can keep an eye on and trade as well. They're just very similar to trading grains as well. They're looking at the same type of fundamentals, supply and demand, but they're also watching weather as well. And weather was the main thing that came into play with both of coffee, cocoa, and even orange juice this past year, which has sparked the rally, just like we're seeing in grains right now. It's a globally traded market, so we're watching global weather headlines, but always with weather, they can change just as quickly as the forecast. So we'll see market movement according to that.
See, we need these global markets to subscribe to the LRC. So then, they're going to know a little better what's coming up down the road. So how will this affect? You touched on grains, Allison, grains and wheat. Are we experiencing drought conditions anywhere where, the prices are expected to go up, or what does that look like currently?
It's a great day to talk grain markets because they're up pretty good today. We're seeing a phenomenal rally in wheat, actually, 30 cents across the board in all three wheat exchanges. And it is mainly due to weather headlines. We know that there's dry areas down south in western Kansas that are continuing to miss the rains, and looks like they're going to continue to do so. So we do have problems here at home as well. We do get a crop condition report this afternoon. It's Monday afternoon after markets close. We get that at 3:00. So we'll be seeing what conditions there are doing. Hopefully they get a little bit better, but they are historically good, actually, considering the past few years of what condition ratings have been. But they have gone down, and it has to do with the dry areas. So obviously issues here at home, but we are talking about dry areas in the Black Sea. So parts of Russia's wheat growing region, as well as eastern Ukraine, has been dry, and they've actually been dealing with some frost there. there. So we have seen production estimates for them as well going down recently. And if you've heard anything about Rush the last couple of years, they've had record production, just phenomenal bumper crop after bumper crop, and they've been able to export on the global market. And they've really taken over world exports for wheat. Everyone's been buying from them, and they've been able to offer ample supplies at cheap prices, and rightfully so. So now that we're seeing some production issues there, we're likely going to see their production go down this next year, and that makes the U.S. a bit more competitive, especially when the fundamentals of wheat are tight. We also know that the EU has been wet, so we are seeing lower crop conditions there as well. And then Australia is kind of a double-edged sword. One side is wet and seeing really good conditions, while the western edge is pretty dry as they're going into planting. So there's lots of different countries, lots of big world exporters that are definitely seeing some weather issues, and that's sparking some concern in wheat. And with the funds being record short that they were, it wasn't that long ago, a couple months, they've definitely started to reverse that position. And actually, we saw them for the first time get long Minneapolis wheat this last week. So that was good to see. And hopefully that just continues to fuel the rally higher here. If they see these weather concerns, that they'll start buying it. They usually are trend followers, as their only skin in the game is to make some money. So they like to jump on a trend if it's going to switch. And for right now, it looks like the trend is turning higher for wheat. And that'll keep that boat going. Corn's usually a good follower of wheat. They usually go hand in hand. So corn's been a good follower today too. We had gains of close to 10 cents during today's session, and we're going to close with some decent gains today as well. And soybeans are hanging in there as well with some double-digit gains. So overall, in my book, it was a good Monday.
I'd say. Allison, with the Farm Bill coming up and a lot of uncertainties in that, is that having any effect on prices on anything?
Yeah, it will, definitely, depending on what goes through. I don't think the trade necessarily pays attention to too many of the details until it actually does get passed and go through. But there's always an element in there that could definitely affect prices going forward. But until something goes through, I think the trade's going to have a hard time knowing what that's going to mean for prices and for farmers and growers going forward. So it's kind of a wait and see approach until we see something come through.
Okay.
I got one for you, Allison. We were kind of talking about, today being a good day in terms of prices moving around. But for someone unfamiliar with the markets, and especially on the ag side of things, what is a significant amount? What is a value that we would define as a good day where prices are moving, say wheat or corn or soybeans? If it's up 5 cents or however it is it works, what would be kind of like a number value? You'd be like, oh yeah, we're up 10 cents. This is a really good day. Or is it a quarter? Or you know what I'm trying to get at?
Yep, sure. Well, and every commodity is a little bit different. Wheat's more susceptible to having a good double-digit day. And double digits, I mean 10 cents or more. So those would be categorized as a pretty good day. Wheat, usually it's a smaller, corn, I should say, is a little bit smaller of a rally. If we get a 10-cent day in corn, that's usually doing pretty well. Where soybeans actually can have a double-digit day a little bit better as well. So it just varies on commodity. But honestly, after the winter we've had, any up day is a good day. So we'll take that.
I think that's probably the best way to say it. Any up day is a good day. Okay, so lots more questions. I've been diligently taking notes, and I think the guys have as well. Allison, we've got a couple of articles we're referencing over here. And we're going to continue to get to those after we do our bottom of the hour news. It is 1:29. Don't go anywhere. We have Allison Thompson with us from the Money Farm. She's going to continue to answer all of our questions in regards to markets and grains. And I've got one about our corn, especially if we see a little bit of a rally right now. So we'll be back with that. If you have questions, reach us on the Red Wing Shoe line, 701-293-9000. Welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for joining us. And our guest today is Allison Thompson with the Money Farm. And just a reminder, it is Memorial Day weekend coming up real quickly. Don't forget, if you haven't done it yet, stock up on your North Dakota Sweet Crude. Sweet Crude is ready for you at your local favorite store. In fact, they just finished doing some taste testings. They've got another one coming up on May 24th at Ottertail Liquors on Highway 78. This is indeed a smooth cinnamon spice flavor liqueur, and Justin and I were happy to sample it in studio one day. They've got a pile of recipes. Find them at crudespirits.com. Okay, Allison, we have talked about cocoa and coffee and orange juice and a lot about our commodity crops raised in this region. But a question that I have for you pertains to the corn that we're going to be selling. And maybe this is more of a plea to our management. Should somebody run out and forward sell some corn for us today because the market's up? And what would that process be if we wanted to actually go forward market some?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like any rally here should be rewarded with making some sales. We make recommendations here at the Money Farm as well on making forward cash sales for new crop. We're still working away on our old crop bushels as well. But as far as making new crop sales, I'm currently about 20% sold. A good rule of thumb that kind of usually go by is getting 30% sold before planting or during planting, and then do another 30% during the growing season, and then doing the final bit of the crop after harvest or at harvest time. So that way you're kind of averaging your crop out, and hopefully you know more about production as your year goes along, especially during the growing season. Last year was kind of a reminder of using some of those marketing strategies because we were obviously dealing with some weather issues that were definitely questioning what kind of production we were going to get, and we had markets rallying at the same time, and a lot of guys hesitated on making sales during that time because they didn't know if they'd have the bushels to fill those contracts. So there's multiple ways that you can do a sale at this point in the year. You can definitely contract with your elevator. That's one way to do it, and just do a hedge to arrive contract. And in the case of corn, we actually do have carry in the market. So looking at the deferred months, they are higher than the front month. So if you wanted to just do a futures contract or a hedge to arrive and just lock in the futures at this point, as long as there's carry in the market, you do have the ability to roll it as well. And you can probably get a better cash price as well if you're able to capture some of that carry. Whereas an inverted market, what we've been dealing with for the past couple of years, you don't have that ability. But if you're not comfortable doing it with your elevator or are questioning bushels at this point or how much you're actually going to get in the field, things like that, you could always do it on the board as well. So if you worked with a broker, you could always sell a contract on the board as well and do a hedge that way. So there's multiple ways to do it. Obviously, it just depends on what your risk tolerance is and what you're comfortable with. And of course, how much you're doing this year at this point in the year. But I would feel comfortable doing some. We made our last sales around that 480 mark. So I would like to target about $5 or better for making additional sales here on corn. So there's your advice for today.
So I'm going to take that advice, and here would be my plea. Hey, Steve, I hope you're listening. We're going to send you an email later. Let's go forward contract some corn right now. So, Justin, I know you had some questions before I launched into a few more as well.
Yeah, I wanted to know, I guess, in how small of a scale can play a role in the markets and whatnot. What I'm getting at here is up here in the valley areas of South Dakota and western Minnesota. It's been very wet, and although most of us have gotten planted, there is still a percentage of those that are not fully planted and also some that haven't done any planting at all. So if a wet weather pattern is going to continue up here in the tri-state area, would something like that play a role in the markets at all if we get into June and there's still a percentage of people that haven't planted at all, or we're still sitting at some, I'm guessing here, 70 to 80% planted moving into June?
Right. Well, and that goes back to, what I mentioned earlier with the crop progress and planting progress and condition report that comes out on Monday afternoons. So as long as, they do move markets, this report does, because it does give us an accurate picture of where planting is at. And they can move markets, but the market likes to see a trend. So if there's a trend showing up in this progress report or planting progress report, the market will respond. And over the past couple of weeks, we've seen planting progress slow just because of what you said. We're seeing wet conditions not only up here, but also in the Corn Belt as well. So as long as that trend continues, it will support the market. So today's report is likely still going to fall behind the 5-year average for planting for corn and soybeans. And if that continues, and again, we're looking at planting dates now on the 2-week calendar, it definitely puts more pressure on, and guys are aware of that, and the trade is as well, that we're kind of losing this optimum window for getting yields. And based on the fundamentals, the latest USDA report, especially for corn, it got a lot tighter. So and that's using trend line yields. So when we're getting later in this planting window, yes, those yields will come down, and that only makes the picture tighter, and that will support our markets. Now, I'd like to argue the point that we don't really matter up here when it comes to planting delays. Sometimes we just kind of get the shaft, and the market doesn't really pay attention to our weather in the Red River Valley. And I guess the reason they do that is because we are kind of a swing area. Based on what the weather does, we can switch up our rotations. Whereas further south, they're definitely, locked into more of a rotation. So we do see them have probably more of an impact than we'd like to admit on far as markets go, but they're definitely dealing with some planting delays this year. So, and their 10-day forecast looks like they're going to have off and on rain chances as well. So their windows are getting tighter as well.
Okay, so for the kid who got through like her first quarter, maybe 2 of ag economics as a major and went, oh God, this is not for me, I gotta go. For those who might have this question who are listening, when you say the fundamentals and the carry in the market, what do those 2 things mean so that we can more accurately follow what we're talking about today?
Yep. No, absolutely. Good question. So the fundamentals are supply and demand. And when we're looking at fundamentals of supply and demand, the USDA is obviously the first one that comes to mind. And they do monthly reports that come out for the US and global production numbers. So those are the main things that we're watching for fundamentals. And your other question was on, what was your other question? Fundamentals
and when we talk about the carry in the market.
Oh, carry in the market. So that's just between contract months. So right now we're dealing with front months being July. So carry in the market would be seeing higher prices in the deferred contracts. So for instance, July corn is at $4.60, December corn is at $4.84. So you're seeing a 24-cent carry in the market. Would be the difference between the two. And as long as there's positive carry, you're able to roll the contracts.
Okay, so positive carry, 24 cents. Justin, feel free to do the math on that. Justin says we're getting 225 bushel corn over there north of Glendon. He might be slightly hopeful, but with any luck, that's a nice little upside for us as corn farmers this year. We're going to try to get it what we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And weather-related question. This has always been said rather tongue-in-cheek across agriculture. Someone else needs to have a failure for us to have a great year, weather-wise. Is that true more often than not?
Yeah, unfortunately it is. And we joke about it, but it is relatively true. You hope it isn't you, but we all seem to get our turn too, with the weather and what kind of growing season we get. And, the last couple of years, though, we were spoiled. We had weather scares during the growing season, but we did end up with some phenomenal crops the last couple of years. And it just goes to show how much technology has advanced in seed and production and what guys are capable of doing doing. So it'll be interesting to see if we still are able to capture a weather market if we do see the weather pattern shift here. I know there's a lot of talk, you guys know, from El Nino to La Nina and what that means for us. And if we end up seeing a shift to dry weather, is the market going to care like it did last year early in the summer, or is it going to be the boy who cried wolf and we won't know anything until harvest? But with a lot of other global production issues in the world, it definitely goes back to global fundamentals of supply and demand. So if there is going to be some production shortfall somewhere, it could definitely help out our prices. But as the last 4 months or earlier this year, since beginning of 2024 has definitely taught us, we need to be taking advantage of when prices are profitable for you. So if you're hitting break-even levels, I highly encourage everyone to know your break-even prices. And if you're hitting them, have some orders in or put some orders in at those levels. So at least you know that you're at least breaking even. And if we continue to go up from there, hopefully it's your worst cash sale.
And Allison, we use the LRC model to forecast long-term, and it's proven more accurate 100 days out. It's more accurate than the 7-day forecast on your app. Just an amazing tool that we use. And it is forecasting a more active than normal pattern when it comes to hurricane season, focusing on the Gulf Coast region. If that does in fact pan out, and we do have a very active hurricane season along the Gulf Coast, what crops would that affect the most?
Man, you'd be looking down south. I mean, if we're getting into hurricane season, honestly, it kind of goes back into my soft commodities, orange juice. If we saw some big weather come through there, the orange juice crop, which is already kind of finicky to any weather scares over this past year, would be one. Further south, you get into cotton. There's also some wheat down there. So yeah, there's multiple ones. And then again, how that impacts our weather system up here and elsewhere obviously could have a very big impact. Right now, it's been very active through the Corn Belt area. And if that continues or how that changes, it definitely could impact more than what one person would think.
Okay.
I do have a last question for you, Allison, and that's in regards to wheat, because we know what's been going on with the whole conflict between Russia, Ukraine, the war. Have they pretty much depleted their inventories of wheat between those two countries? Because Ukraine was only planting about 60% of their normal acreage last year, but yet they still seem to be cranking out bushels. Any insight or any thoughts as to what's going on over there, and what is that going to continue to drive our wheat price higher, because we're a much higher quality wheat?
We are. It's an interesting dynamic, but I think the market's kind of gotten past it, to be honest with you. Regardless of what the situation is there, the wheat has continued to flow. So they've found rerouted supply and made things work with all the supply issues. What they're actually producing, it's a very good question. We're only using what we know from them, and what the USDA prints as well. I don't know if we'll ever know 100% what the crop is or where it came from or where it's at or anything like that. It's a very good question, but overall, we trade the fundamental numbers. So what a lot of these large agencies say and print, that's what the market's gonna trade. And for right now, it looks like their production's gonna be moving lower. And after 3 years of a bumper crop, it's kind of safe to say that we probably will be looking at lower production there this year. But yes, I agree. The war is definitely throwing things for a loop. And unfortunately, it's become kind of a non-event in the world of wheat. So unless something more were to escalate or something like that, I mean, that would definitely move the market. But even where Ukraine's wheat regions are right now, it is in the war zone of Ukraine, eastern Ukraine. That's where a majority of their wheat is growing. So today we got headlines that one agency was quoting that their wheat could be 20 to 30% less on yields this year because of a frost that they received. But they're also in a war zone. So it makes movement for today, or likely help the rally today, but come harvest, is it going to be there? I don't know. So it's kind of combing through with a fine tooth comb, but obviously headlines move markets, and that's what we're susceptible to.
Okay, and I know we call it poverty grass, but I still love raisin wheat. That's just me. But Thank you,
Fair
Allison, for
enough.
joining us and letting us just barrage you with questions all over the board today. If listeners
Yeah,
want to
absolutely.
find more information or talk directly to you, how can they reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to talk markets any days, up days, down days, or anything in between. You can reach me at the office. The number is 701-347-5985. You can email me at allison@themoneyfarm.com or visit our website, themoneyfarm.com, and you can contact us through there as well.
Thank you, Allison Thompson. So much appreciate it. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. We still have to recap what looks to be a slightly rainy forecast. I said slightly, heavy on the sarcasm. And we'll gather up some last few ag headlines before upcoming shows. So be right back.
And welcome back to the program. Thanks for rejoining us. 1:53. We'll have a rundown on the forecast coming up here in just a moment. But if you want to join in on our conversation today, ask some questions, feel free to give us a call on the Red Wing Shoes phone line. That's 701-293-9000. Again, the Red Wing Shoes phone line, 701-293-9000. Email also weatherorag@flagfamily.com. And I think before we run down into the forecast, because I think we got the gist of it, that it's going to be on and off rain chances for the next week. Bridgette, why don't we run down another ag topic here, there, and that's factors do consumers use when purchasing?
Okay, so imagine yourselves at the butcher shop or the grocery store, guys. What might be those things that come to mind for you where you want to use those critiques or those criteria if you wanted to buy beef? Well, you're probably going to think about your freshness first. How does it look in the case? Price is certainly another factor. And food safety. Is it being well taken care of? It's not like being sold in a dirty back alley situation like we might in some other Asian countries. Okay, so a recent report from K-State University tells us that what consumers are looking for from farmers is, again, that freshness and that quality, and they want to see it in the stores. Two of the things that rank the lowest were what's the carbon footprint of the beef and whether or not the beef was raised humanely. I think because that was at the bottom of the scale, there's two factors that come into play. One, folks don't think about beef and the carbon cycle and why they're an important part of it, nor is it making a lot of their decision-making factors when buying that particular product. And two, they trust farmers. Overall, consumers trust what farmers and ranchers are doing when raising their beef products. And so, again, it falls a lot back to what it looks like in the meat case. Is it fresh? Is it safe? Is it credible? Those types of things. And we can have all sorts of arguments about grass-fed or corn finish. The bottom line is May is Beef Month. Keep buying beef as well as other products. That's what we like to see.
This just in, ground burger is cheaper than ground turkey now.
Yeah, I think it might be.
It is. I was just at the
Is it
store.
really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Hugo's wanted $7 for a pound of ground turkey.
What the heck?
Exactly.
Wow.
Outrageous.
Well, remember, inventories are tight with what we've had with going on with bird flu. We've got to make sure that we keep those poultry flocks protected. So that has indeed raised some of our costs.
I mean, I don't think
all
the
of
bird
this-
flu's been that big of an issue, though, from what I've been hearing about it. I mean, it's not like half the bird population's
been
been
quiet.
wiped out.
And we've rebounded through 2023, but we have had additional costs when it comes to some of our biosecurity measures that had to be implemented. And we do probably have lower flock numbers than we had prior to 2022.
Yeah, well, they're not getting more money
Not cheap.
from me for ground turkey. We're switching back to hamburger now because it's cheaper.
Beef is there.
So
Well, that's why you watch your price as a consumer. You never overpay for any product,
Yeah,
right?
no.
I mean,
they can drop it down again
Mom
and I'll
taught you
start
to-
buying it.
Mom taught you to buy on sale and use a coupon. That's the way this is supposed to be.
And Dean learned to buy the expired meat.
Well, almost expired, and then you freeze it. Then you zip,
Expires
flash freeze it.
Ziploc
today.
it, save
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a money-saving trick, though. I just like to give you
By
a
the
hard
way,
time
there's-
for
I know
it.
you do.
There is an upcoming
You're
event, though,
fired.
that folks,
Finally.
I do want them to be aware of. And that is June 4th. There is a mental health first aid training. This will be held in Castleton. It's being put on by NDSU and First Link of North Dakota. The reason I think this is important is it is targeting the rural communities and areas. So for those who are looking to have this sort of certification or participate on behalf of their community, again, that's going to be June 4th in Castleton. It's an all-day event. If you are interested in registering, you can go ahead and email me, ag@flagfamily.com, and I will make sure to get you the registration link for it. And as always, you can even call us at the show tomorrow, 701-293-9000. That's the Red Wing shoe line, open and ready.
Indeed it is. Hey, Bridgette, I got something for you.
Always. What's up?
It's been a while.
It's been a good minute since we've given you an old Fisher Price moo.
Aw, I like the moo.
I know how
And
much
it
you
is
like the
beef
moo better
month.
than the goat.
Yes, I do. And we can play that all through June because June will be dairy month and it's going to be here very, very quickly.
We can play the Screaming Goat all through June?
I
think
believe I
heard
said
that.
the moo. Yeah, I was going to bring more Pride Dairy ice cream in, but I feel like that just flew right out the window.
How about now?
Yeah.
Even the chances just went up.
All right, that helps. Just keep hitting that sounder. Well, we've got clouds throughout the area. Temperatures in the mid-60s across much of the area. Today will be a dry day, so that's good news there. Light winds out of the west-northwest. And again, we'll top out close to 70. For tonight, clouds sticking up down to about 50. And pretty good chance of rain coming in tomorrow afternoon, lasting through tomorrow overnight. Some of that rain could be heavy, especially just east of the valley, with highs tomorrow only around 60, where we get the steady rain. It'll be in the 50s most of the day, kind of a chilly one, and then we'll dry things out for about a day and a half after that.
Right on. Thanks,
Yeah,
Dean.
you got it.
That'll do it for us today. We're back tomorrow, 1 to 2, with Jay Thomas shows next.